Dean wishes to ask a question of the Leader of the Council. Mr. Dean, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. The local plan is a document which I've heard described as key, vital and should have been done yesterday. The Council's failure to deliver this key document has left the local economy, employment and the environment in a disastrous state. Can you explain why you failed to deliver a local plan?
Thank you, Mr. Dean. Councillor Mrs. Blackmore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, Mr. Dean, welcome back again. I think you were here in December, so nice to see you again. Oh, did you? Oh, I'm so sorry. Sorry. Maybe it's your twin. Who knows? For all those who have twins, I apologise. On a slightly more serious note, I think failed to deliver a local plan is not quite right. You may not be aware, but at the end of January, there were 3 meetings of the Planning, Transport and Development Scrutiny Committee. And they looked at 74 sites across the borough. Some of those have been out to consultation already, and some are due to go to a regulation consultation shortly. Then there were 2 Cabinet meetings, and Cabinet looked at the recommendations from scrutiny. We made a few changes, not many. Generally, we took their recommendations forward. Out of those sites, there are a number that will go to a Regulation 19 consultation, which is a technical consultation, later on this year. Of the new sites, they will go to a Regulation 18 consultation probably within the next couple of months. So to say we have failed to deliver a local plan is not quite right. We are well on the way. The only sadness I have is that the decision re the sites has been called in. By doing that, it delays the process. And for every day that we delay, it is my belief we have a developer's charter within this borough. So therefore, any will we have to protect the green areas is very hard to do the longer we delay. So I agree with you. The quicker we get on with it, it should have been done yesterday, the easier it will be for all of us.
Thank you, Councillor Mrs. Blackmore. Councillor Mrs. Wilson.
Well, the short answer is no, we don't have a local plan. I mean, that is self-evident. I can go back into past history and say we managed to deliver 2 previous local plans on time, and I can bitterly regret that we've allowed certain things to delay us, like the KIG issue. I think there are very good reasons why we felt things had to happen that way at the time, but undoubtedly it put a spanner in the works that has made a long delay. I regret that the leader chose at this forum to bring up the fact that we've called the housing allocations in, but as she has done so, I will explain why we have done so. And that is because in some of the decision notices there is inconsistency, complete inconsistency. And it is our view that that will make us lose the local plan when it goes to the inspector anyway. And the last thing we want is for that to happen. So the most important thing now, and I really think we should not keep going back over ground over and over again. We have to move forward. But the most important thing now is that we get it right. And from our side, at least, that is what we are attempting to do. Better get it right and have a call in than actually get it wrong and have inconsistency that then goes to the inspector and the local plan is found and deemed to be unsound. We want it to go through when it does get there and be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilson. Councillor Mrs. Gooch.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll take a slightly different tack, if I may. Move over a little bit. In days of yore, when the previous local plan was got together, agreed, that was back in 2000. And since then, we were happily building on brownfield sites right up until, I'll be corrected, 2009-10. And so, of course, we had the Kent International Gateway, which would have had a huge impact on us. So all the focus was on that, as my previous speaker has just said. So there wasn't really a strong enough political will to focus on a borough-wide local plan until, of course, the coalition government, decided to change the rule. Well, adapt the rules, shall we say, and they said, right, everybody's got to have an up-to-date local plan. We started off by having a general strategy, what we called the core strategy, and that was just areas of Maidstone where we thought we may or may not develop. Unfortunately, although it would have helped us meet the government's deadline for producing a local plan, it wasn't specific enough. It didn't give detailed sites, so it didn't keep developers happy. Sure as hell didn't give the residents happy, because they felt blighted. Is there going to be a development? Is there not? So we went down the path of being site-specific. And ever since then, we have had an awful lot of controversy, because balanced against a lot of people who want somewhere to live, we've got to balance that against those who are desperately clasping onto their green fields, their country lanes. Our roads aren't fit for purpose for such an influx of extra traffic. So you've got this huge balancing act. And that is what all the debates, all the meetings are about. And it's a process that's taking an awful long time. But we've got to go through this struggle. We will get through it. But I do regret, like all my colleagues, I'm sure, it's just taking such a long time. How easy it would be if we all agreed on everything. It could be done in a flash, couldn't it?
Thank you, Mrs. Gooch. Mr. Powell? Sorry, Councillor Powell.
So I'll answer to anything, Mayor. Yeah. Mr. Dean, welcome back. So you spend more time here than some of the councillors, don't you? Yeah. Anyway. So if I can just read the first line of this, it's the local plan is a document which I heard described as key, vital, and should have been done yesterday. Interesting. Could I just change that slightly? The local plan is a document which I've heard described as key, vital, and should be sustainable and consistent. And that is the very reason what is holding this plan up, because I don't believe that it's sustainable or consistent, and that was why I was one of the 3 signatures I've called this plan back in.
Thank you, Councillor Powell. Councillor Mackay?
I'll defer to Mr. Harper on this one, please.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. I think the Labour group definitely want to see a local plan in place as fast as we can do. We've made that quite clear from, I think, the last meeting when I asked a question of the Leader of the Council precisely about this issue. We think that all groups in this chamber need to work together. It's a top priority for Maidstone to get the local plan so it can go out to consultation as fast as possible. The consultation, obviously, even if the documents don't have to be 100% word perfect, because after consultation it will come back and there's bound to be comments which will need to be reconsidered before the document is ultimately finalised and goes to the planning inspector. But I think I agree with what the Leader of the Council says, is that every day at the moment delayed leaves us open to developers. And we just look around the borough virtually every week, there's proposals coming in which, if we had a local plan in place, might well not proceed. But as we are in a weak position. Unfortunately, the council has been let down by a lack of support, I think also from Kent County Council, in terms of delays with the transport modelling, which has not helped us at all and is a cause of delay. But I think it's unfortunate that the 2 main parties don't necessarily seem to see eye to eye over this, when some of the requirements of the local plan are a result of some of the discussions made by the 2 parties in coalition at Westminster.